What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. In this episode, I'm going to take y'all behind the scenes of the Norah Jones podcast. We're going to get some wisdom from the great Keith Haring. We're going to talk about when it's time to build a business around your passion. I'm going to react to a freestyle from one of you. Close it out with a freestyle of my own. Y'all know how we do. Flow State, baby, let's go!
This is from my Flow State. Add it, yeah. Y'all know we back at it. Ain't it crazy how the mind works magic? We gon' show you the method behind the madness, 'cause this is from my Flow.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. We are here. We are in full effect. I didn't come here alone. My man Sam is in the house. Sam, how you feeling, bro?
What up, what up? Feeling good, man. Feeling real good. It's a
Hell
good day.
yeah. Me too, man. It's always a good day when we get to record another episode of Flow State. Love doing these. Love to the community, man. Shout out to everybody who shows up, comments, engages with it. And it's just a great time, man. I'm so happy to be back.
Same, bro. Same.
Hell yeah. So here we are once again, locked in with y'all. I had the chance recently to be a guest on Norah Jones's podcast called Playing Along.
Yeah.
Shout out to Norah Jones, obviously an incredible musician, incredible artist. Yeah, it was just an honor to be invited onto her podcast to be a guest. And I can tell you this much from the time that I spent with her, such a warm, kind, just lovely individual. I had an amazing time and felt like we really connected.
Cranium.
Y'all know what it is. Playing along. Here we go. Yeah, he's not a human. Mac is an alien, composing verses directly from my cranium. Y'all know I do it right from the mind. When I be flipping right up at the metal, you know I excite them with rhymes. Come on.
Clever.
I'ma last forever. Verses off the mental, best believe they sound clever. Yeah, flowing divine, so open up your heart to this. Mac and Norah Jones going hard for this. Listen.
Helix.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experience doing the Norah Jones podcast. I was nervous a little bit. You know, I always get a little bit nervous going on people's podcasts. You never know what's going to happen. And this one in particular was unique because the whole concept of her podcast is, you know, she brings on musicians and does musical collaborations throughout the course of the conversation. So interspersed within the conversation are various musical collaborations. So, you know, it's a little nerve-wracking to be like, oh my God, I'm going to like collaborate with Norah Jones? What the fuck?
Legend.
Yeah.
That's such a cool concept, though. I really like that.
Yeah, and the execution is really great, man. Like, you know, she's always in like really awesome studio environments, and you know, the audio recording is just top tier in addition to the video recording. So it's like really well produced. And so I was watching, you know, other episodes that she had done. One with a really great jazz drummer named Brian Blade, who I love, who I got to see perform live when I was young. There's one with Logic that was really great. One with Questlove and Christian McBride that was so great. So I'm like, wow, man, this is like super high level. Obviously, it's Norah Jones. She herself is super high level. So, you know, I was like, oh man, I hope I can do this justice. And, you know, we had been texting back and forth a little bit about what we were going to do for the musical collaboration piece, and kind of trying to figure out, like, you know, the best way to join forces musically without any rehearsal, of course. It's kind of a impromptu jam session kind of feeling to the whole thing. And, you know, we had a plan of sorts, a loose plan, which is my preference every time, is not to have a rigid plan, but rather a loose plan. And so we had a loose plan, and then, as often happens in this world of improvisational music, we didn't follow the plan at all. And it's actually really funny. What had happened was I showed up to the studio, and her team was like, yeah, you know, we were trying to figure out kind of the best way to, you know, transition you eventually over to the drum set. Because when we had talked, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll bring some, let me back up actually. Our loose plan that we didn't end up following was, of course, I was going to freestyle. She was going to sing a little bit, maybe not on every track, but she would pick a track or two throughout the course of the podcast to add some vocals to. And she was going to play, of course, piano, keys. She ended up playing keys the whole time. And I was going to bring some essentially like pre-produced drum tracks. So I have various recordings, like drum loops that I've played myself or patterns that I've programmed. And so I had bounced a few tracks of just drums, some of me playing, some programmed. And I was going to just play those off my phone, basically, into their recording rig and be able to freestyle while she played. And it was just drums. That way it could be wide open for her to do whatever she wanted to do harmonically. And so then I had suggested, maybe for the last song we do together, I'll play drums, because I've been working on this thing. It's still kind of in development, but I am a drummer. I've been playing drums for as long as I've been rapping. And so, on my last tour, we brought the drums out and I accompanied myself for a short segment on drums while I was freestyling. So maybe we can sprinkle that in, as a grand finale. And she was great. She was like, I love it, totally cool that it's kind of still in development. I love a tightrope walk, and I was like, hell yeah, let's get it. This is going to be fun. So, okay, back into the story. When I got there, her team was like, we were trying to figure out like the cleanest way to kind of transition you, from the podcast environment over to the drum set. And then we realized it would be easier to just have you seated at the drum set for the entire conversation. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. Cool, so I'm like, this is great. I feel comfortable behind the drums, so that's cool. So then I'm there and they're like, oh yeah, and here's like the dongle to plug in your phone, to play your pre-recorded tracks. And it was so funny because just very organically, early in the conversation, once we actually started rolling on the pod, Norah was like, yeah, so, when it came time for the first musical performance, she's basically like, yeah, so what do you want to do? I understand like you brought some drum tracks. And as soon as she said it, I was like, I mean, yeah, I did, but like I'm literally sitting behind a drum set right now and it just feels like completely sacrilegious to just like pick up my iPhone and like press play on a pre-recorded drum track, especially since it's like me playing, It's just like I recorded this in my studio at home and now I'm just gonna like play it off my phone even though I'm sitting at like a mic'd up drum set in this like awesome recording studio. That just feels so wrong, And so I basically expressed that. And she was kind of like, yeah, I know what you mean. And I was like, all right, well, damn, I may have bit off more than I could chew. And I don't exactly know what I just signed up for, but I guess I'm accompanying myself for this whole podcast. And to be completely clear, Norah Jones, nor did anyone on her team put any pressure on me to do that. Like that was me, I'm the one that said that. I'm the one that was like, nah, let me just play. So in no way was it like they tricked me into playing drums or anything like that. But in effect, it was kind of funny. Like just them making the decision to have me behind the drums the whole pod made it feel to me in my heart like, well, this is the only way that it can go down. Like I'm not going to press play on the phone right now. I'm going to actually play. And so that's what we ended up doing. And I felt very comfortable. I had an amazing time. It was quite surreal, if I'm being honest, like especially the musical moments were so surreal because it's like I'm seated right across from her, and there's this sight line and she's like throwing me words. And at certain points she's jumping in and singing. And I had to be like, whoa, wait a second, bro. I'm like jamming with Norah Jones right now. Like this is insane. So that was just so crazy. And, I really felt like the conversation was natural and it flowed so well. And again, everybody was just so kind and inviting. So we ended and I was like, damn, that was sick. Like, wow, what a time, man. Wow. And I really like took a risk there with the drumming thing. And then as often happens to me, as soon as we left, I was just like, oh no, dude, like what just happened? Like, what the hell? Like, why did I do that? Like, why did I play drums the whole time? Like, I wasn't ready for that, like I've never done it. Like we do it on tour. So shout out to everybody that came and rocked with us on Anomaly tour in the US and Europe. There's a segment of the show where we bring the drums out and there's this drum solo that happens. And there is a small section where I am accompanying myself on drums while I'm rapping, but it's kind of a short segment. It's always with the same beat that's happening. Jazz is, providing the musical elements and I'm providing the drums. And so it feels like a pretty like manageable, controlled way of doing it. This was just like wide open, like, oh, let's jam. Like, all right, I'll pick a tempo and groove. It was much more just fluid and improvisational and in the moment, which I love, right? But it wasn't something that I felt like I had developed to the point where I necessarily was like ready to reveal it. And then so as I was leaving, I was like, oh my God, like, what was I thinking? And then I start getting in my head, I'm like, oh my God, like, how did I sound? And this is something that comes up time and time again for me. I struggle with certain insecurities as a creator and as an artist. And so it's not uncommon for me to feel that way in general. But then this had the added element of the whole drum thing. And like, my brain was just so like, I was so kind of, I guess, in a flow, right? Like it really was a flow state of sorts when I was doing it, which is good. But I was so in that I like couldn't remember what I did or how I sounded. And I was like, damn, was that good? Was that like horrible? Like what just happened, And then I'm like, man, maybe I like rushed on everything or dragged. Like the tempo might've been all over the place. Like the drumming might've been completely out of the pocket. I was just thinking about my rhymes, blah, blah, blah. So this fear thing starts happening like very intensely, like this overwhelming fear thing. And then it's funny, I had another gig right after that. So Mikey, shout out my man Mikey, who's often with me when I'm going around the world doing these gigs and appearances and things. At the next gig, I was like, yo, Mikey, when does the podcast drop, with Norah? Because I just like, I can only really exhale when the thing is over and done with, like out to the world, At least then, good or bad, like sink or swim, it's done. There's nothing I can do about it anymore. It's just like etched in the history record. I can move on. And this was like it must have been in December or maybe even November. Cause the gig that I was on when I was talking to Mikey after the pod was for Macy's for the holiday ads that we did with them. So it was like before the holidays and I was like, yo, Mikey, when does it drop, man? And he was like, I think March. And I was like, what? Are you serious, bro? It doesn't drop until March? Like 3 months? Like 3 months that I got to live in this like fearful space. And it's because, Norah Jones is great and her podcast is official and it's through iHeart and they have like this whole production schedule and it's like, much more, how do I say? It's like more of an official kind of a platformed podcast as opposed to some of the like independently produced podcasts that I go on with comedians or other personalities where they film it and they upload it and then they do the next one. Which is essentially like what we do, right? It's totally independent. Yeah. We kind of post on our own schedule, but this is a little different from that. So I wasn't used to it. And I was like, oh my God, I have to sit in this fear. And it was so crazy. Like between the filming of it and when it finally dropped, I would just like every couple weeks, like wake up in the middle of the night. Not literally, but it felt like it. Like I would be laying down to go to sleep and I'd be like, oh shit, the Norah Jones podcast where I like, for some reason, signed myself up to play drums the whole time and probably sounded terrible. I would just convince myself. The narrative got worse and worse in my head over the weeks where like by the end it was like I had convinced myself that it was horrible and that like, oh no, the whole world is going to see, which is funny because it's like the whole world is not going to see, but like it's like everybody is going to know that like I did this stupid thing. I don't know why I did it. And again,
you're like the only one in the world at that point where if I don't know why I came on, like at his coffee shop, you're like stressing out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, no.
And to be clear, again, I want to be abundantly clear that I loved the experience. And like this has nothing to do with Norah Jones or her team or anybody else. It has everything to do with my own insecurities and my sort of challenges as an artist that are ongoing and some of the things that I talk about in my music, with fear and dealing with the sort of fear and insecurity of putting yourself out there like that. So this was a me thing, and I'm fully aware of that. And I was even aware of that to some extent as it was happening, like while I'm experiencing it. Like this has been going on for so long, years ago, it just dominated my world. And it was like, oh, this is the truth. Like I'm afraid of this because it is this scary. I did do bad and it is going to be horrible. Now I still struggle, but I'm so used to it that I'm kind of like, a part of my mind is like, yeah, but also, dude, this is just that thing again. This is just that thing that happens. It happens so often. It happens almost every time. After you freestyled for Kendrick, you thought you did horrible. You thought your career was over. After you did whatever it is, you thought you did horrible. You thought your career was over, and time and time again, that doesn't turn out to be the case, right? And eventually I come around to being like, you know what? It was good. I liked it. That was cool, So I was at least like somewhat aware that like, this is probably a me thing. I'm making this worse than it really is. I know that, but still I'm struggling with it. And then finally, like a week or two before the episode came out, Mikey DMs me the Dropbox link for the audio, which was great because to be able to listen to the recordings without having to watch them definitely helped, because watching, it's like I'm watching through my fingers, like I don't even want to see it, but I could just listen. So I was like, all right, let me just like, it was still hard to double click, but I had to double click. And I started listening, and like 20 seconds into the first one, I was like, oh shit, all right, tempo feels good, groove feels good, okay, all right. Then I start coming in rapping, I'm like, oh, okay. All right, it's not bad. It's okay. I think we're gonna, and after track one, I was like, all right, one good one. Then I listened to track two. I was like, all right, that one kind of came together too. All right, two good ones. And Norah sounds amazing on all of it, And so then track by track, I listened through, and I was like, it was the biggest sigh of relief ever. And I just DM'd Mikey back, and I was like, oh my God, wow, thank you. And I think we made it out unscathed, man. I think this is gonna be cool. So yeah, crazy internal journey for me. And it's just another one of those reminders. Like, again, same thing as after I rapped next to Kendrick or did the Ellen show or did whatever else it was that I did where I was worried that it was bad. And then it ended up not being bad, and this was just that again. And what was special about this one is it was a stretch moment for me, and so now the podcast is out, and we've posted videos on my Instagram, and they're getting a lot of love, and people are so supportive of it. And there's a lot of like, wow, do more with the drums, which is something that I have wanted to do in my heart for so long. That's why we brought the drums out on tour. And it's all good. And I think I just wanted to speak on this because for me, it's such an interesting phenomenon where so often I need a push. And I think it's very interesting how Norah Jones didn't necessarily intentionally give me a push. Because like I said, she wasn't pressuring me to play drums the whole time. I took that on myself. But inadvertently, she had created this environment where it was just the push that I needed to do this thing that was scary for me, that I felt in my mind like I wasn't yet ready to do, especially not in such a public way, where so many people are potentially going to see it. And apart from that, I'm sitting across from a legend in music, and so I don't want to drop the ball. I want to rise to this occasion and collaborate with her in a way that is positive and uplifting for both of us. And, in my mind, it wasn't ready. And it makes me think back, all the way back to the very first video that, introduced my freestyling to the world, which was the Bounce House video. Shout out to Jacob Mann. This is way back in December 2016, before any of this happened. Literally the catalyst for me having a career as Harry Mack was the Bounce House video. And there again, I'd been freestyling my whole life pretty much since I was 10. Everybody that I went to school with and was in the music program with knew that I was super passionate about this and that I had this skill set that was high level. And yet in my mind, it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't worthy of sharing with a wider audience. And so it took Jacob Mann creating this situation. And again, it's not like his prerogative was giving me the push I needed to like jumpstart my career. He just thought I was dope and wanted to do something dope together, plain and simple. But inadvertently, again, he created this situation where he did give me that push, whether it was intended or not. I don't think it was. And then that's what was the catalyst for all of this stuff starting. And it's just so fascinating that here again, so many years later, that was 2016 and now we're in 2026, right? 10 years ago. Damn, is that right? Nice. Wow, holy shit. So not quite 10 years because it was in December, but 9.5 years ago, after everything that's happened, still, it's like I'm living out this same cycle. I just find it so fascinating and so interesting. And, it's just a good reminder that my time horizon for when the thing that I'm working on is actually ready, like when I am convinced that it's good enough, is so absurdly long because of this perfectionism thing that I have that in some ways helps, but in other ways like this can get in the way, that I wouldn't share the thing until I'm like retirement age. You know what I mean? Like maybe. And even then, who knows, And by that point, it's too late, right? Like if I wait till I'm 65 to show the drumming and rap thing, the window is closed, man. Like, and that's the thing that we don't often acknowledge or talk about for artists and creatives and really for everyone is like, eventually the window closes. Like it's not open forever, And so for me to have this thought pattern, and maybe some people out there can relate, let me know. If you're watching this, let me know in the comments. But I can't go with the time horizon in my mind because it's just too long. And so, ready or not, I got to share this thing, and it was true of the first freestyle I did with Jacob Mann, and it was true of this freestyle and drumming thing that I did with Norah Jones. And what's so incredible is that after that happens, it really is a catalyst for me to then dive in and do more of the thing. Like now I'm like, oh, great, we just scratched the surface. I've been working super hard since then on drumming and freestyling because I'm like, I could go a lot deeper with this. There's a lot of things I want to work on and develop and figure out. And now it's like I'm giving myself the freedom to do that because I, did the first one. And I do wonder, will I get to a point where I don't need the push? I'll probably always need the push, but will I get to the point where I can give myself the push? How do I get to the point where I can give myself permission to do the thing? Maybe I don't get there. Maybe I just continue to surround myself with awesome people who, whether they intended or not, will give me the push that I need. Maybe that's just how it will go. It'd be nice in theory to imagine a future me that doesn't need external push, but can cultivate that push within myself. But one way or another, I just want to give a huge shout out to Norah Jones. Thank you so much, Norah Jones, for the music that you have given the world and for being such an incredible human being and such a warm, inviting human being, so much so that you could create an environment where I would feel comfortable volunteering to do something that was actually terrifying to me. And last but not least, thank you for pushing me to do the thing because I clearly needed that.
It was a dope vibe in that podcast, man. She's so just so calming. And I'll say this, man, it looked like you were having fun in the moment. Like
I was.
You're never thinking it in the moment. So that should tell you almost, but I know it's impossible, but that should tell you, you would know while it's happening. You're like, this timing's not
Yes.
But then as soon as you get in the car, you're just like, wait a second, I don't believe any of the memories. I don't even have them.
Yes.
Now it's all just dark thoughts. But yeah, man.
No, you're so right. It's even with Jacob Mann, I was having a great time, I freestyle all the time. This is easy. Of course I'm going to do this. And that's what's funny is it's not even so much the thing itself. It's more so the thought of the thing being exposed to the world, Sure. And it's just funny because it's people will ask me about that, on this podcast or in general, yo, what do I do? I'm like a up and coming artist. I do this thing completely in secret. I don't share it with the world because I'm super scared of judgment. And they're looking to me, because I'm this guy that has shared so much with the world, and it would appear that I've figured all that out. I'm past that, I'm past the fear of sharing my art. Look, dude, I got thousands of videos, hours upon hours. You couldn't watch all of it. It's all out there. It's not the case that I have checked that off and moved past it. It rears its head again and again in different forms. And it's something that I'm forever working at, And so hopefully that can be encouraging to people out there who are struggling with it themselves. That fear of judgment is real and people will judge you, that's the other side of it. You don't want to be out here saying don't be afraid of judgment because you're going to put your shit out there and it's just always going to be all good, and you're not going to have any haters and you're not going to get any negative feedback. It's well, you will probably have some haters and you will probably get some negative feedback. But hopefully you'll also get some positive feedback, and one way or another, you'll get the feedback that you need to learn and grow. But it can just be incredibly hard to remember that myself. It's a lot easier for me to give that advice to somebody else than it is for me to actually internalize that advice myself, which tends to always be the case, right?
I think you set yourself up to push yourself more than you think too, to be honest, because you're giving a lot of credit to everyone around you. And yes, I personally think it's so important to surround yourself with with creative people that are, just out there doing it. Cause it just makes, it goes through the whole group. You just get actions going. So you were in school with Jacob Mann. He was on his own grind, and just being in that vibe, brings everyone up, and that's just the vibe. But I'm saying, man, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for actually, you've put yourself in these positions to, do these opportunities, and you haven't shied away from them once. it is that thing afterwards where it's scary.
Yeah.
I get that. But like, man, you're out here getting it, like for real. Like, and you're taking big risks, and yeah, man, you just got to fight those demons after. And to be honest, that it's ready thought might never even exist. So just go for it every time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I do appreciate that. And you're right. I do got to give myself a pat on the back as well for putting myself in those situations. And actually, now that you say it like that, it does kind of help me reframe it in a sense of realizing that those crazy thoughts afterwards may just be the cost of putting myself in the situation to do the scary thing. Like I simultaneously have this like deep drive and ambition to like do the thing, you know, to put my art out there, to like have an impact on the world if I can, a positive impact, you know, to contribute to this beautiful art form called hip hop that I love, that has taught me so much about life and myself and the world. You know, it's like I'm so motivated to do that. And there's this burning ambition, you know, to get out there and do it, you know, to overcome the fear, to jump over the obstacles, to fight the uphill battle, to get my voice out there and to try to just do it, you know? There's that. And then it's almost like, okay, I have trained myself to be able to put myself in those positions and act on that. But then there's this cost associated with it. You know, like nothing is free. And so I think it's really just, it's an illusion to assume that like, well, when you go do the hard thing, you're going to feel way better afterwards. It's like, well, not necessarily, like not immediately. Like the cost of doing the hard thing is that afterwards you're terrified. You know, you're like, damn, what the fuck did I just do? What did I just do? Like, you know, and if you didn't have those kinds of feelings afterwards, then you maybe didn't stretch that much, right? So it's like, or it wouldn't be scary to do it in the first place. Like if it was just easy to do, then, you know, yeah, cool. Then you just go do it and it wouldn't be a thing at all. So yeah, no, you're right. I am putting myself in these positions and then afterwards I'm kind of just like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? But in this case, it panned out, man. And it was such a great opportunity. And, yeah, big love to Norah Jones.
It's funny. It's like almost in this scenario, I can relate very much, whether it's with like video editing or something else. Like it's almost like if you look at one individual project, you get those scary feelings. But like eventually, if you zoom out and you see the body of work's okay, like to yourself, you're like, wait, no, this is all working, you know? But like when you just like finish a song and you put that out, you're like, dude, I don't know what I was thinking with this one. And like, but then like the sum result, finally you're like, dude, it's all good. Like it's all fine, you know, like it's working.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So anyway, more drums and rapping, you know, in the future. Let's keep that thing cranking. And I'm excited to explore and see what could be uncovered there. Hell yeah. All right. Well, speaking of drums and rapping, there will likely be some of that in Europe this summer. There will definitely be some rapping and some drumming. I'm like, how should I say this? Because I don't know. Some of the festival sets are shorter, so I'm not sure that the drums are coming out for every festival set. But for sure, for the headlining sets, they're coming out. And anyway, the moral of this story, if I can get through this botched transition, is that I'm coming to summer. I'm coming to Europe. There we go. Yeah. All right, let's just edit all that out and post and tell the people that I am coming to Europe this summer, baby. I'm going to be there but most of July 4th through July 16th, 3 festivals, 3 headlining shows. And I'm excited to say that Hamburg has now officially sold out as well. Vienna was sold out last time we recorded the pod. Now 2 of the 3 headlining shows are sold out. Shout out to Vienna, Austria. Shout out to Hamburg, Germany. Y'all showed up. Those shows are already sold out. Fear not, there is one last headlining show that is not yet sold out, and that is in Munich, Germany on July 7th. So if you're in the area or nearby or have just always wanted to visit and you want to catch me while you're there, tickets are still available, but looks like these are all 3 selling out. So make sure you get your tickets sooner than later. And if you don't get there in time for the headlining show, there are 3 other festivals that you can get tickets for as well. So I hope to see y'all out there one way or another. I'm so excited to get back out on stage and rock for the fans out in Europe this July, baby.
Can't wait, bro. It's coming up.
Yes, indeed. Very exciting. HarryMackOfficial.com/shows, by the way, is where you get your tickets. Don't sleep. We hope to see y'all.
Yeah. Little moments of flow action for you here. And I'm a big fan of this one. We had David Lynch last time, I think. And That was like my favorite one yet. This one might
yeah.
take it, man. It's Keith Haring, just legendary artist. I know you're well aware. Kind of in that 1980s New York scene is where he came up, and I don't know. I just I came across a video like a couple weeks ago where I never really knew much about him. I mean, I know I recognize the art as it just permeates through so many different levels of culture, but
Yeah.
I had no idea he was this. I just love his like interviews. He's such a real go with the flow guy. So it works.
Yeah.
Like he just cranks out art. A lot of it's line art, and he just like won't even take the pencil off the page. You know, he just kind of like just is very just. I appreciate the way he talks about creative expression and just like getting his art out there. And I found some really cool quotes from this interview here with People magazine back in 1983.
Hell yeah.
And if I may, actually, he was interviewed in 1983 by People magazine. They wrote a quick article about him. These were the recordings that they made that article with, but the recordings didn't come out for decades later.
Okay.
And this is part of the recording. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Got you. Okay, sick. Hell yeah. So this is out the vault right here.
Yeah, for real. This guy has a podcast. His name is Michael Small. He worked for People magazine.
Okay.
And his podcast is called I Couldn't Throw It Out. And it's basically about like digging through his old interview archives and like pulling in like cool like pop culture stuff that he has. Right after this, there was like an interview with Andy Warhol, who's actually good friends with Haring. So this is that's where I found this.
Hell yeah. Sick, man. I'm excited for this. Big fan of Keith Haring. He was very much in the mix, like with the early hip hop scene that was happening too, like throughout the 70s and 80s, like, warehouse party hip hop scene on into like early recorded hip hop and stuff like, and really like, a lot of crossover with like the graffiti scene that was happening, like in the Bronx and throughout New York. So really dope, man. I'm excited to check this out.
More than once for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, he was all about that. I think the first thing he did was just like go down to the subways and like do art with chalk. And it was very much aligned with that graffiti scene for sure, which is so fucking dope.
Yeah, and Andy Warhol did like the Campbell's Soup painting, right? And so that's cool too, because like the in the Wild Style film, which is like the first official hip hop film, they had like a mural on the train, like a graffiti mural on the train of the Campbell's Soup can as like an homage to Andy Warhol. And I just recently listened to Fab Five Freddy talking about how they wanted to do that to show that like, this graffiti thing is not just like some criminal thing. Like, it's not just about like, defacing public property. It's not vandalism. Like, it is, but it's so much more than that. And like, there's some real artists out here like doing some real shit. And like, we know a little bit about art history, or we know a little bit about like what's happening on the so-called like legitimate scene, like we're checking out some of these pop artists. So yeah, lots of crossover there.
There's a ton. They had like a club in New York, I think, which was like the spot. Like, it was like Keith Haring's like spot plus maybe another artist. I don't know if it was Warhol, but that's where I saw like a lot of like the hip hop crossover, because that was like the spot to be in New York for a while.
Hell yeah. Wish I could go back in time and attend some of those parties, man.
Same, man. So
hell yeah. All right. Moments of Flow with Keith Haring. Let's check it out.
Why have you made the decision to repeat the same sorts of images over and over again, like the baby or the running person?
In some ways, that's a lot like, it's like the structure of language, and the way things derive meaning is in their use or in their repetition. The whole thing in some ways can be looked at like a language. The images are like, become like a vocabulary and can be combined and recombined in different ways.
Do you do?
Sick. I'm just going to pause it right there, because already that's fire. Yeah. The things derive meaning through their repetition is so huge. I love that. There's this concept in music, motivic development, right? So you're taking a motif, like a short bit of music, and then you're developing it through what? Through repetition, right? And then variation. And the classic example of this is, Beethoven. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. It's the same. It's those dun, 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 those four notes, that rhythmic melodic shape being repeated again, but just in a slightly different melodic space, right? And then again more, faster, so it's like this same motif is being repeated and then shifted through different rates of speed and different melodies and so on and so forth. But it's the repetition that makes that so powerful and impactful. And it's the repetition that gives it meaning, right? And it's like if Beethoven instead just went somewhere completely different after those 4 notes, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum. It's like, wait, what? Like, okay, it's fine, but it's not Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, right? Those 4 notes are iconic and epic because they were repeated and they were developed. And I think about that quite often, especially when I think about, a drum solo. When you're young and you're trying to figure out how to do a drum solo, sometimes you think that, well, if I just have a lot of chops, which means like a lot of speed and a lot of cool licks and things that I've worked out that are like super impressive and fast and flashy, I can just string all those together, right? And then I'll have like an awesome drum solo. And you start doing that and it makes sense on paper. It seems like that's what drum solos are, right? Just a lot of flashy chops and stuff like that to make people go, yeah, woo, and you start doing that and then you're like, why is this falling so flat? Like every time, like why is this not connecting with anyone? And the reason is because you're not telling any kind of story. There's no arc, there's no shape to it. And, as you mature as a musician and as a drummer in this case, you start to learn that you could actually play much simpler ideas. And just by repeating them and then developing them, you can say so much more and you can actually tell a story and you can have an impact, So that's that concept of motivic development and giving things meaning through repetition. If you just play something once and then move on to something else and then move on to something else and then move on to something else, it might all be great stuff, but none of it feels important. None of it seems to matter. If it mattered, you would probably state it again, and elaborate on it. And so I just thought that's really cool. A little crossover to music that I think about when I hear him talking about, using the same sorts of character drawings that he does, of these sort of like 2-dimensional outline drawings of the figure. It's so recognizable. And the reason that it has such an identity and is so impactful and powerful in part is because he repeated it again and again and again in different contexts, Yeah.
It's the indifferent context thing for sure with him. Like he had these several different kind of figures that would often pop up in his art. And like, that would be used for, like a really uplifting charity or something like that, or, just whatever. But also like he'd be able to use it for, he was pretty outspoken about different things that, he didn't love about the world and stuff like that. And like he was a really big advocate for, AIDS, which like he died from, just getting the word out there, because at the time the government wasn't really recognizing it, and you saw a lot of people in the community struggling. And he would use like the same cheerful characters to make this beautiful art piece like over this area in New York where like the government had to see it, and like would kind of make a statement over top of like an advertisement that, he would use the same thing that was uplifting for like also these critical political statements. So it's just very interesting, like to be able to flip something like that and stick with it. It's so cool. It's so cool.
Hell yeah. And I love too talking about how the repetition is what creates sort of the structure of language. And like he has this language that is unique to him, that is recognizable, in the same way, like on previous episodes, I talked about like how Charlie Parker has like a language, or like my favorite drummer, Philly Joe Jones, has a language where when you dissect all of their solos, you like hear these repeated fragments and you're like, oh, this is like a signature thing. So I think that's really cool.
I connected it to your work a little bit too in spots like, you've done so many freestyles and a lot of it might have the same mechanics, maybe some of the same lines, but like, in my opinion, never saying the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, the same way when he does his work in a new context, he can be delivering a new message with the same language, Yeah, that's really cool. All right, let's keep rocking.
Do you do sketches of that before you do it?
Oh, no, never.
So
that's another part of this whole thing. So I would never, sketches are drawings. I mean, when I do a drawing, it's a drawing. I don't do drawings for drawings. Drawings are
Right.
You know, like I never ever, even the
Oh,
big mural on Houston Street,
Yeah.
I never do drawing before. I do it there and I do it on the thing. I mean, the ideal situation if you're making something is to be in a state of total control but total mystery, right? So that you don't really, so that you're really inventing things and really using your imagination. But I still try to use it in a way that it's as much full of surprises for me when I make it as the end result.
Epic. Love this. I mean, this is flow state, right? I feel like that's what he's describing right here is flow state, man, in its purest form. I mean, I love the ideal situation if you're making something is to be in a state of total control but total mystery. I love that juxtaposition, total control but total mystery. To me, that's what this flow state thing is really all about. You know, I talk so much about drilling and training, you know, on the fundamental techniques of freestyling. That's the total control element. You know, you don't do that so that you can have this like rigid, over thought out, like kind of conceived approach. No, you do it so that you can let go in the moment and embrace that total mystery that he's talking about. But you need both, you know? They're sort of like feeding each other. If it's all total mystery, then you know, it has no foundation. But if it's all total control, then you're not surrendering to the moment, you know? So I just feel like the way that he describes that, total control but total mystery, is so dope. And then, of course, as a freestyler, you know, I love the idea of him not doing any kind of drawings in advance. That's so funny. I don't do drawings for drawings. Hilarious. But yeah, I mean, he's improvising, you know, that's what I take from this. I mean, you know, he's unfortunately not here to tell us if that's exactly what he means, but,
I believe it is.
You know, yeah, he's not drafting it out in advance, you know, he's flowing in the moment and he's finding it as he goes. But he still has total control over that language. It's awesome.
Which is hard for like a lot of people to imagine, like, hey, you got paid all this money to come do this huge wall. It's the center of our town. Like, you must like have this all mapped out, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, like the reason that you like the work is because this is how I can do it. It's like, this is how I get to that. So here we go.
Yeah. Which is a very relatable challenge, man. Cause sometimes like it's hard for us to convince people. It's like, they're like, he's really going to freestyle it though. It's like, yeah, I'm really going to freestyle it. Yeah. Times Square, New Year's, like national
All-star.
TV everywhere. We got 1 minute. I'm gonna make it up right there. You know, of course that's what I'm gonna do. That's why I'm here. That's the gig, you know? So mad respect.
What's that one jazz quote that you've said before? I think it's like you learn all of it and then you like shut up and play or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. It's attributed to Charlie Parker. It's quoted a few different ways, but essentially it's like practice your scales, practice your chords, and then forget all that shit and just play.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Total control, but total mystery. So dope. So dope. All right, let's hear what else he has to say.
With all these people like wanting you to paint, you know, do you ever get to the point where you feel like you're just a factory and you're just doing the same painting over? Is that a fear that might happen?
But at this point, being 25 years old and only having really been working on this work for like 2 years, I don't think I'm at that point yet.
Yeah.
And I have I have a lot of ideas yet to what can happen. And as long as the images I keep having new images, then I'm not scared of it. I'm at that point right now where I'm making the best things I'll ever make, probably. And that's another reason why I work so hard now, is because who knows how long it's going to last or what's going to happen, how long I'll even so it's really important to me now to do it, because it seems like it's real, and it seems like I should just keep, go with the flow.
Go with the flow, dude. That's what I'm talking about. That's so dope, man. I mean, everything just resonates so much and is so inspiring to hear from somebody as great as Keith Haring. Really fascinating to me that he has this awareness to say, I'm probably doing the best work that I'll ever do. That's fascinating to me. Like to say that while it's happening. I don't hear that too often. Where people are like in the moment making it, being like, yo, this is probably my prime right now. Like, this is probably the illest shit right now. Like, and I wonder, I guess maybe people feel that somewhere inside while it's happening, but I haven't heard too many people say it out loud. Like, I have to imagine like Lil Wayne when he was like at the peak of his like dominance of the game, you know, it was just like so prolific. He's just dropping so often. He's everywhere. He's on everybody's song. It's like he's so hot. And he's just like in the studio constantly, just like you would just hear about like recording sessions where he would leave with like 20 songs, you know, and stuff like that. It's like, maybe he was like, yeah, this is my reign right now, bro. Or not. Who knows? You know, we'd have to ask him. Or maybe he was like, no, this is just the beginning, man. It only goes up from here. But that was just interesting to me to hear somebody like in it saying like, yeah, this is probably, you know, the best work that I'm ever going to create, I think is what he said, right? Let me see what he said. I'm at the point right now where I'm making the best things I'll ever make, probably.
So it's like probably. He's like, you know, like, I don't know, but like this could be like the peak right here. And, and you know, the question is basically like, are you worried that like, you know, the fans of your work will just kind of, you're so good that it gets like oversaturated and okay, we've had enough of that. He's like, this is like, I'm making the best stuff right now that I really like. Yeah. I'm not going to stop. Like we got to keep churning right now. Like I'm not thinking about that.
Right. Yeah, totally, man. And like, as it should be, right? Like, who knows? Yeah, maybe the thing will fall out of favor. I guess every artist probably has that to a degree. Like I've had thoughts of like, man, does this thing really last though? Like what am I going to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Like, is there still going to be an audience for what I do? Maybe there will, maybe there won't. But, you know, at the end of the day, you don't have control over that, right? So it's like, while it's happening, don't distract yourself by wondering if it's going to keep happening. Just live in the flow, like he says, right? Like, be in that flow state while it's occurring, you know?
To me, I think it's also saying just like the inspiration's there right now. Like, so like I'm in his, like I'm feeling inspired when I'm working. And like, I'm pretty sure for a lot of artists, like that's a really good sign. Like, you know, like as soon as that's gone and you're like, you know, clocking in and, you know, he's still, that's I think a part of what he was saying there.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. If it feels right, don't question it, you know, just go. So hell yeah. Awesome, man. Keith Haring. Woo.
Just an absolute like beast of like for art culture in general. Like no he would doubt. Give away a ton of, he was kind of like controversial at first in the art scene because he would honestly go and give away, he would do like 500 drawings like in a day and give them out to everyone on the street. Yeah. And the art world's like, yo, you're a renowned dude in our industry. You need to charge all this money. He's like, no, art is for literally everyone. It's just for, it was very kind of like an anti high culture movement by him, and he stood up for a lot of important things at the time. Sadly, we lost him like a few years after that interview. I think he was 28 when he passed. But what a legend. Like his art is still everywhere.
Wow. Epic. Hell yeah, dude. Well, great pull for Moments of Flow, man. I'm feeling inspired already.
Let's go.
And we're going to keep the inspiration flowing, man, with another edition of Meet the Team. We got my man, Sur Jazz, in the mix. If you ever come see me live, then you already know what's up. Sur Jazz is, well, he's going to tell you who he is, but he's one of my best friends, one of the greatest people I've come to meet in life, and very honored to have him in my life. And he has elevated my life in so many ways, but we're going to tap in with him right now.
What up, beautiful people? It's your boy, Sur Jazz. What up, Mac? My guy, Sam. How y'all doing, man? Looking good. Thanks for letting me ask some questions to the people out there. If y'all don't know, my name is Sur Jazz. I am fortunate enough to be the tour DJ for #Team HMac. I also am a producer. Made a couple jams with my boy, 2024 and awards, just to name a couple. Not only that, but I get the chance nowadays to do a lot of the audio editing for a lot of the content you see, whether it's social media or on YouTube. I get to mess around with some audio and really try some things on the back end. Being a part of Team HMac, I've always wanted to know, as an artist, we all work really hard to get better at our craft, right? You talk on this podcast quite a bit about like repetition and the drills and the practice, but when did you make that decision to switch to become more business forward and business driven? And on top of that, once you make that switch, because this whole practice is the whole brand of HMac, you and Lisa, this is kind of like your baby. So when did you also know to trust the team and have that trust fall with everyone to also take care of your baby just as hard and just as good as you do as the parent of the brand. Keep doing what y'all doing, man. Keep tuning in to the Flow Station, boy, Sur Jazz. Yeah.
Hey. Shout out Sur Jazz, the legend. Thank you for the question. Great question, man. Yeah, been working at the craft for years. Like you said, when did I decide to really prioritize the business and the brand and grow this thing into what it is now? It's really interesting. It makes me think about this class that I took when I was at USC called Careers in Music. And all due respect, by the way, to the professor, who I think was very well-intentioned and honestly did a good job presenting the information. But I always think back on this class, it's kind of funny because it was all about how to get your business shit together. We're these musicians, aspiring jazz musicians. It's a tough career, very competitive. Most jazz musicians are not making a lot of money these days, unfortunately. Only the top 0.001% are really doing it big. And here we are, some young 20-year-olds getting ready to graduate. Hopefully we're going to have careers in music, And so the course was like a lot of stuff about how to make your business cards and how to, you got to have some headshots. We were able to sign up and get some headshots for a reduced price. And how to, get a website going, how to write your bio. These were the assignments, like write your bio. And, it's all, again, it's fine information. It's true in some ways, maybe not the business card anymore. That's kind of hilarious, but some people still have business cards. I don't know. But it was just so strange because I was like, bio, like I haven't done anything, what is the content of my bio? I got accepted into the USC Thornton School of Music. I mean, yeah, that's cool. Like that is an accomplishment, that's great. But like, nobody cares, like in the real world. Like most of the musicians that we look up to and admire didn't go to music school, And if they did, they don't talk about it. It's not like important. It's not in their bio anymore. It's not necessary to shift culture, right? So it's just kind of like, I haven't done anything, And what is the content of my website? Like it's easy to make a website. In a way, no, and it's not easy to make like a really awesome, great one. So shout out to all the like innovative like web designers and stuff like that. There's an art to that. But I just mean like to have a basic website where it's like here's all my gigs, here's where I'm going to be on these dates, and like here's some videos of me playing. Like that's not the hard part. The hard part is like having the gigs and like having the videos and like having the stuff to fill the box with, right? And so I just remember feeling like this is so strange. I don't know what to do with this, and it was backwards. It was backwards. So I think sometimes people do get that backwards, and I think sometimes it can be a way of procrastinating because the scary thing is going out into the world and doing the thing, making the art, putting it out. Like we were talking about before, I still struggle with that, right? Sharing your art with the world, that's the scary thing. And putting the work in to live a remarkable life is scary. It's not easy, if you want to live an exceptional life, like think about that word, exceptional. It means you are the exception. You're the exception to the rule. You're the exception to the norm. You're not normal. So when you're like telling people what you're going to do with your life, they're looking at you like, that's crazy. You're really going to do all that? You're like, yeah, I'm going to try, right? Because I want to live an exceptional life. And so until you have done that, you don't want to get distracted thinking about how you're going to build your brand or how you're going to optimize your business. And I feel like a lot of times, and I've done this too, so I'm not above it. So this is no kind of judgment or anything like that. An easy way to procrastinate is to learn about how to make a nice website, unless of course your craft is being an awesome web designer, in which case that is the real thing. But for everybody else, like you can waste a lot of time not going out and living an exceptional life worth building a business around by just learning how to make a dope website or learning about the dimensions of the banner on your YouTube channel and designing that. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? Like this stuff is not hard. And so to answer, your question, Jazz, about like when did I start investing in the business? First, I had to go do something, And again, shout out to Jacob Mann, Bounce House, the first video, December 2016. literally after that video came out and it got 100,000 views overnight and it was voted to #1 on Reddit videos and all this crazy stuff that I didn't even have a clue about. I was learning about it so quick as I could. I hit him up. I was like, let's get lunch. And we got together and I was like, bro, what should I do? Like, this thing happened. What do you think I should do? He's like, bro, I think you should just make a YouTube channel, start making your own videos. And I was like, got it. And so then I went home and I made a little YouTube channel and I looked up the dimensions of the banner and I used Canva, or I don't even know if Canva existed, but I used something that was free and I designed a little thing and I put it up there and I found a picture of myself playing on some beat pads, and it wasn't a great picture, but it was a fine picture. And I made that the profile picture, right? It was adequate. And I didn't have a logo because why would I have a logo? You know, I wasn't there yet, right? But I took the first little like preliminary steps of doing that, and doing that also on Facebook and probably also on Instagram. And it's like, okay, now I have a presence online. You know, there's still empty boxes because I haven't made any of my own videos yet, but I'm ready now. I have these like basic pieces in place. And that was really all that was warranted at that time. You know, I had this one low-key viral pop on the internet, and that was a great thing, a great catalyst for me to get going. And so then I did just enough, the next step, to be able to maybe be able to capitalize on some of that momentum. And I started making my own videos. And it was like my first video that I made, randomlist.com, is me just in my bedroom playing on the drum pads and then freestyling off this thing called randomlist.com. And I just remember I like posted it like a week later, and I went and I commented on Bounce House, yo, it's me. If you guys like this video, check out my first video over here with a link, you know? Like, it was maybe semi-effective, but that random list only got like, you know, maybe 3,000 views, if that. It didn't go crazy or anything, but it was a start, right? And so then again, it was like, well, how do I go viral now on my own terms, you know? Shout out to Jacob Mann for being the catalyst, but how do I do this now myself? And so it was like, you got to go out and live an exceptional life, you know, right? Like, you got to go do something, man. Go shake shit up. There's nothing more to do at this point. Like, don't spend hours figuring out how to design a website or how to build a team. You haven't done the thing yet, you know? You had a splash, but now you got to go out and make another couple splashes, you know? And so then it was like, all right, let's go to the liquor store and do a freestyle. Oh, that one got 10,000 views. Oh, wow, it's happening. Probably not even 10,000 views. I don't know what it was. Okay, let's go do this video of me driving through Portland. That one tanked. Didn't get any views really. Oh, well. Okay, let's go do this one at the park. Okay. And then come February, we had Venice Beach Part 1, and it was like, shit went crazy. And so then it was like, okay, and now guess what? It's on my channel, you know? So some of this traffic, granted, a lot of the ones that went really viral were like reposts through like viral, you know, those sites that like culminate viral videos from across the internet. But anyway, still, the original was on my channel, and I had a headquarters online, you know, that I had created with my funny little banners and my funny little profile pic. And then that's when it was like, okay, well, now my inbox is inundated with all these like opportunities, and I'm terrible at these kinds of like organizational things of like going through all of this and, you know, teasing out what's real and what's not, because most of this is probably bullshit, but some of it might be real. And, I don't know, this is so overwhelming. And so then, you know, luckily, the woman who is now my wife, who at this time was just, you know, my early girlfriend, we've been together for a few months maybe, is really great at these kinds of things and was like, hey, you know what, I think I might be able to help you with this flooded inbox situation. And so she started helping me with emails and DMs. And so that's the first kind of like slight expansion of my team, you know, of me like taking help from somebody else to be able to build this thing out. And it was just the appropriate amount of doing that to match the level of what I had done in the world, right? And it continued from there, you know, to get to the point where we are now, where, you know, it's a 10-person team and you know, a combination of full-time and part-time employees. And you know, we go on tours and we do all these different things. That didn't happen overnight. And there's a lot of content on the internet about like how to build a team, how to have an awesome website, how to launch your merch line, how to go on tour. And like, it's great. You know, it's cool. It's all information. A lot of it is valid. Not all of it is valid, but a lot of it is. And you can find the good stuff and you can learn some stuff and it's great. But my thing would just be, you know, don't get it backwards. Because those things, you'll figure out how to do those things when the time is right. They can be challenging, but they're not the hardest part, because the hardest part is living an exceptional life that is worth building a thing around. That's really hard. You know, that's like the passion, the thing you devote your whole life to. You know, that's the thing that started when I was 10. And really before that, it started when I first heard music, you know? That's that. And don't feel bad, because if you're 50 right now, it's not too late, right? I happened to start when I was a kid, but it's never too late. There is time, you know? But that's the hard part. And so that's my thing is, to answer your question, Jazz, I started just incrementally building out the business and focusing on that at what felt like an appropriate level based on what I had done in the world and what was coming in to me organically, if that makes sense. And that's the way that I didn't always execute on that perfectly. And I still often, the reason I'm so passionate and saying this, like, I don't mean to sound like I'm preaching from a soapbox and, you know, like, listen up, kids, do it this way. Because I procrastinate and distract myself all the time. I have to snap myself out of it and say, bro, what are you doing researching like light boards for venues and how to program a DMX light show for your tour? Like, what are you doing? Like, you like that'll be. You can hire a LD, like you can hire a lighting director when the time comes. Until then, like, it's cool, you know. So I do it too, and I always try to remind myself, you know, don't get it backwards. Live the exceptional life. Go out, do the thing, do the truly hard thing, which is you know, your passion, and just get so undeniably good at it that you are overwhelmed by the opportunities that are coming into you, and you have no option but to figure out how to build a team and how to run a business. Because I didn't come into this thing as an entrepreneur. I didn't come into this thing as a small business owner. Like, that wasn't like, that's what I want to be. You know, I wasn't like watching Shark Tank, like, yeah, man, I can't wait to go on there. I'm a musician. You know, that's what my passion is. And so that's the core. And all the business stuff I've learned along the way. And some things I've been naturally decent at, and other things I've struggled with a lot. And, you know, luckily I've been able to bring great people into my world to help me with the things I'm not as good at. But that's that piece. And then in terms of how I, you know, trust the people to you know, delegate the different pieces that I delegate. I mean, I'm just so lucky, man. I have great people. You included, Sur Jazz, you included Sam, and everybody else on the team. You know, I've been able to just fortunately find really, really great people that I trust. And, you know, everybody shows up ready to learn, ready to improve, ready to iterate. Everybody shows up with energy and passion to try to give their all and give their best. And you can't ask for anything more than that. And if you have that, you know, there's no limit to how far you can take it. And I think one thing that I always had to keep in mind is, you know, there's this concept where it can be hard to delegate, because like you said, it's your baby, you know, like, this is my baby. It's like, I used to edit every video and make every thumbnail and, you know, do every piece of it myself because I had to. And sometimes it can be hard to let go of those things because you're like, man, I don't know if anybody else is going to give it the same attention that I would give it. And the truth is, they're probably not going to give it the same level of attention that you would. They might give it the same level of attention. I think, again, I have such a great team, and I do think that they give it their all. But they don't necessarily know everything that you know in your head about how you want to present yourself, right? Like, it's like, it's your art, so you have opinions about every little part of it. And so it can be hard to say, like, well, I'm going to trust somebody else to do it. But I have to really remind myself about this thing where it's like, if it's 80% as good as you would have done it, and good is subjective, but I just mean, like, if it's 80% as aligned with what I would have done, then it's time to delegate. Like, that is when you delegate it. It is a successful delegation, because it's not going to be 100%, but the value you get back from the time that you free up for yourself when you delegate the thing is immensely valuable and outweighs the 20% loss, if you want to call it a loss, that you take by delegating the thing to somebody else. So that's how I think about that part.
It's interesting because it's not like a 20% loss in like the amount of attention paid to something and like diligence. It's that creative bridge that only you can really have. That's hard to even put it, you know, like, they'll pay the same amount of attention, but you're like, but I really care about this one thing. And like, it's just hard to get that across. And I have a hard time delegating myself. For that reason. But dude, I think you've been like great at it. And man, it's been great to like work with you for the last, like, I don't know, five years or something. And it's really dope how, like you said, like, You've allowed like everyone on the team to like, we jumped on board like at different times and whatnot, and have like grown and like done stuff kind of out of our scopes, like one at a time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now we're going to take it out of the comedy club. Let's hit like Europe and like, you're going to film it here. And I'm like, all right, man, like, yeah, we got this. Like, and it has been just such a growing, it's been really dope, man. It's been great.
No, it's been an amazing ride, man. And I feel like we're just getting started, and, no, it's incredible, man, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it can be hard to delegate, and you're right. It's not 20% less attention; it's just 20% less ability to be inside your actual brain, because so many of the things that I might sense, I don't even know how to put words to it. You know, like it would require me to just like work for months writing. It feels like writing down like, well, why? What is it? A lot of it is spidey sense type stuff, which is probably like 1,000 micro firings in your brain through time of subjective aesthetic preferences, which are probably based on like things that I experienced at different points throughout my course of life, like seeing the Scratch documentary when I was 12, you know, and like that is like a big piece of my aesthetic lens, you know, and hearing Black Alicia's Blazing Arrow so early is a huge piece of my aesthetic lens. And also hearing Jammin' 95.5, mainstream rap of the early 2000s, like is in there somewhere, even though I don't consciously know that it's in there. And so those are the little things where it's just like, I wouldn't do it that way. And it's like, well, why not? That's a valid way. And you're like, it is a valid way. It's just not my valid way, you know? So
I need you to know to blend all of those things you just said into this like typography.
Exactly. It's an impossible.
You got it across.
Exactly.
It's not going to like carry forward, you know, like
right.
It's a difficult thing. So
yeah,
but yeah.
And different people have different relationships with it too. Like some people do retain a very hands-on level of control with a lot of aspects of their business. And usually that just means they go a little slower. You know, to just grossly generalize, it's hard to achieve speed if you have to be hands-on with every part of it because you're only one person. And so for me, it's been immensely valuable to be able to move faster and to get more content out, to just let go of that 20%. And then incrementally over time, it's like, oh, now it's only 19% that's let go of. Now it's only 18, 17%. You know what I'm saying? Because over time, through little things here and there, be like, yo, could you tweak this a little bit this way? And then it's like, oh, okay, everybody's lens starts to kind of align. And I would also say, you know, I benefit from having different perspectives on the team too. That's the other side of this coin, right? It's not only about me trying to get everybody to see the world the way I see it. That wouldn't be productive. You know, the idea is like, I see the world the way I see it. Yes, I'm the artist, and that's going to be, you know, the main engine of like the creative vision, but also I should be challenged. You know, like I should be looking at something and being like, I wouldn't have done it that way. That's interesting. Maybe I don't see it right now, but let me chew on that, you know? And then my perspective expands as well. And so that's the value of bringing great people along too, is like, you know, it's like that thing, Steve Jobs, it's like you're all rough-edged rocks in a rock tumbler, a roller, and then it rolls around and everybody's clashing and bumping into each other, and then they all get so smoothed out and beautiful, you know?
Nice.
So,
yeah. Everyone has like a different like knowledge base too. So it's like they almost teach you like, oh, you wanted to do it this way, but like I just want to present you the value of this way. Yeah. And then like sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, like that's definitely, I'll sacrifice this because that makes way more sense. And like, yeah, man.
We out here learning together. Shout out to my boy Sur Jazz. Legend in the flesh. Come see us in Europe, man. You know what it is. This summer, July, we out there. 3 headliners, 3 festivals. We about to go crazy. And go support my man. YouTube.com/@SurJazz. SurJazz_. Go support this cat, man. Run it up. He's doing great work. He's an amazing person.
Mad talented.
Yes, 100%. Hell yeah. Let's keep on rocking, man. We're going to get into some fan questions, S in parentheses. We might only have time for one, but we're going to see, man. These are some epic combos already, man. We've been rolling. But yeah, shout out to everybody that submitted their question through IG this time around. We threw something up on the story for y'all, and we got a lot of questions through the Instagram story. So excited to see what we got.
Yeah, we got a ton, man. We got to do that again sometime. We threw up one of the IG stories where you could just type it right into the story itself, and they pulled through, man. They pulled through.
I love to see it. Shout out to all of y'all. Great reason to follow me on socials if you don't already. But you can always submit your question as well at harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. Over there, you can submit videos, audio, or text. But we're going to get into at least one, maybe two of these questions right now. First one comes from Alan Lepcha, 27. The question is, do your best lines come from control or surrender? Love this question. Makes me think about Keith Haring. How did he say it? It was like total control, but total mystery, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if the word was total. Was that it? Okay. Control and mystery. Yeah. Control and mystery. The answer is yes. They're inseparable to me. That's what flow state is all about, right? You achieve flow state when you're doing something difficult and your skill set is just refined enough to support you doing that exact thing at that level. And if you are too skilled for the task at hand, you get bored and that breaks your flow state. If you are not skilled enough for the task at hand, you get overwhelmed and you're flooded with anxiety and that pulls you out of the flow state. So what you need is a perfect pairing of where the razor's edge of your current skill level empowers you to do the exact thing that you're doing. And then it just focuses you in like a laser. And so, for me, flow state is kind of like the intersection of control and surrender. But the way I think about it is I can't achieve the surrender without first establishing the control, right? And that's why, again, I talk about technique so much. There may be a misconception or just an alternate belief, another way of looking at it that differs from mine, which may also be valid, but the belief would be that, technique is just this sort of stiff thing that boxes you in. You would hear some people like talk about how don't practice too much. If you practice too much, then, you're not going to be able to get loose with it. You're not going to be able to surrender, basically. Like if you have too much control, you won't be able to surrender. It's not going to feel organic anymore. You're just going to be like too sharp. But I don't agree with that. I feel like the more technique you have, the more free you're going to be when you surrender, because in theory, if you had unlimited technical ability, then you could say anything that you wanted to say in the moment and make it beautiful through your instrument, or through your artistic medium, whatever it is. Just because you have the technique doesn't mean that you have to utilize it, right? That's the other thing is people are like, well, if you have too much technique, it's just going to be all chops or all speed or all this like really intricate stuff. And some of the most beautiful stuff is simple. It's like, well, yeah, but if you have all the technique in the world, you can still say the simplest thing, right? What's stopping you? You don't have to use all the technique every time. But if you don't have the technique and for whatever reason you want to use it in the moment, but it's not there, then you can't do it, right? So it becomes a limitation to how free you can be. That's how I think about it. So for me, control leads to surrender. And it's Charlie Parker, man. It's so funny. It's just like all these episodes have themes, and this one is just like so on point. This is exactly what Charlie Parker was saying. Practice your scales, practice your chords, then forget all that shit and just play. It's basically like do the control, then forget all that shit and surrender. Right? Like that's literally like that's how you would translate it. That's what he's saying. Do the control, then surrender. It's both, But if you just surrender, I was talking about this recently. Like if you just go to an open mic, but you haven't really practiced your freestyling or anything, and you just go up there and just like surrender to the moment. I mean, look, maybe something cool will happen, but most likely it's going to be something sloppy and weird and confusing, and it's not going to have any frame of reference for anybody. Like they're going to be like, "What is it? Like, what genre is this? Like, what is happening right now?" And that might be interesting to some people, but most of the time it's probably going to fall flat. It's probably not going to be that impactful. But if you have all of that if you've worked on your stuff and you have that foundation of technique supporting you, then you can surrender and that there's this like really strong foundation underneath that's lifting everything up, and giving it that potency. So I would say my best lines come from the practice of control and then remembering to surrender when I'm on stage. Because it is true, if you don't remember to surrender when you're on stage, you can't get to the highest level. And there's been times where for whatever reason, maybe I didn't sleep enough, maybe I'm not, I didn't eat enough, or I ate the wrong kinds of foods, or I'm a little sick, whatever it is, I'm distracted, I got in an argument with somebody, whatever, I'm a human being. So there's times when I might be performing, whether it's on a live stream or on stage or wherever, and I'm distracted. And then I'll find myself just focusing on the technique, like being technical. Like, it's like I'm preoccupied with the technical aspects of doing what I do. And I'm like focusing on like rhyme inside a rhyme and multisyllabic and do this and go to double. And it's like, that can be good. It can hit that professional level for sure. And hopefully it does. And it probably will, because I've been practicing this since I was 10, right? So it's like, it's not going to be necessarily even noticeably worse to the audience. It might be great. Hopefully it will be, but it's not going to be like that top tier, that next level thing, because I'm thinking about the control, and so you do have to remember to let go. You have to remember to surrender, and you have to have faith, and you have to trust, that all of that technique is still there for you. So that's why I say the answer is both. You need both to get the best stuff.
It seems like surrender is so big in freestyle, though, because it's like just putting yourself out there so much. Like, you have to not worry so much about, that sentence coming off wrong or this or that. But, yeah, man. So
100%.
I like how you always talk about skiing with flow state, because when you talk about you have technique, so you know that you can go to that when you need it. Yeah. It's almost like technique's there to save you time after time when you're surrendering. Like, every time that you get yourself somewhere, the technique actually like makes it okay. And when I think about skiing, it's like every turn is almost like a fall. It's a controlled fall, and like you're just going for it. And it's like the technique every time is just like, okay, no, I actually know to get up on the edges like this. So it's like, it allows you to take those risks every bar, every turn, and it's just there for you to keep you up.
100%, dude. Yes, exactly. And skiing is a good example too, because if you don't have the technique when you need it, you might get injured, like you might really hurt yourself. So like, you're going to need those techniques like as you need them. And if they're not there, it's like, oh shit, we going off this cliff right now? Okay, well, send in the helicopter, I hope he pulls through. So luckily with music, like the stakes aren't as high, although they can feel as high, because isn't there some like stat that like people are more afraid of public speaking than death? Which is crazy, like that, which is so crazy, but it makes sense to me. Like, I get it. But yeah, I mean, it's real. And like, if you think about it, like the ideal would be like to just like open up to the muse or whatever you want to call it, like open up to the universe or this like collective consciousness, like cloud or something, and like let the freestyle or the solo or the painting or whatever it is just like pour through you. Like, that would be ideal, right? That it would just like pour through you. That's what we're going for. But what if the muse drops something into the funnel that requires a certain technique that you don't have? That's when you hit a wall. That's what creates a block, and it pulls you out of the flow, because you're like, you get like tongue-tied if you're freestyling, or like, the words didn't hit, or the bar was too long and I couldn't fit it in correctly and I messed it up, So you can only really open the faucet all the way and just like live in that flow state if you have unlimited technique, which is impossible. You'll never have unlimited technique, but it's a lifelong pursuit to try to incrementally add to your toolkit to just have more and more, so you have fewer moments of that lapse in flow. But
that's a dope question.
Yeah, love the question. Shout out to Alan Lepcha 27. Well, should we do one more or should we keep it moving?
Let's do one more, man. Let's do one more.
Let's do one more.
Try to make it quick-ish.
We'll make it quick, but we'll do it justice. Ocean Grown 804. When did you know that it wasn't time to quit on your vision? Oh, wow. Yeah. This is a great question, man, because there were times that I wanted to quit, or I thought, I guess I didn't want to quit. I never wanted to quit, but there were times when I felt like maybe I should, like maybe it's not going to pan out, especially earlier in my journey. I would say like post-college, first, few years out of college. I graduated in 2012. Bounce House happened at the end of 2016. So there were like, 4 years there, roughly, where I was like, man, I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm playing these like gigs that are, barely paying anything. And apart from that, they are not the vision. When you're playing background music in some random ass banquet hall for some like corporate award ceremony and you're just constantly being told to play quieter, it's like, damn, I don't think this is the vision, and that's just talking about me as a drummer. Nothing was really happening for me on the rap side of things, just because I wasn't putting it out there like that. I needed that push, and it didn't come until later. So yeah, it can be tough, man. There can be some dark times when you're like, man, I've given my all to this. I'm so passionate about it. I feel like I'm at least decent at it, and I'm getting validation. Like my teachers in school are praising me at times, also critiquing me heavily at times. And I still got a lot to learn, and that, but it's like, but also I have some shit together, for sure. And like, I'm playing with other people who are really good and have invested their whole selves into this, and they like playing with me, and we're all on the gig together feeling like, okay, we're doing at least decent here, but like, you're not making any money. You're not really getting any recognition. Nobody knows who I am. I'm not really making a name for myself in any way. And, you start to feel stuck. And you can start to question the whole endeavor and just wonder like if it's ever going to pan out. And it makes me think too, there's this quote that comes from AA actually. I learned about it through reading. But I think the quote is like, don't give up right before the miracle happens. And of course, this is for people who are trying to get sober, which is incredibly difficult. It's something that I've gone through, and it was difficult for me in my own way, but also for some people, it's infinitely harder than what I experienced, even, with even deeper levels of dependency, right? And so it's like you're trying to do this thing to better yourself, but you're like in so much pain, you're in physical pain, and you're like in emotional turmoil, like just imagine all these things that you've never dealt with emotionally, like coming up to the surface all at once. And you've just been crushing them down for years, for decades in some cases, right? Like just turning a blind eye and a deaf ear. Like I can't ever look at that. And it's like Pandora's box just like breaks open. And it's just like, here's all the shit in your life that you've been pushing down. And it's just so uncomfortable and so horrible. And so to be in that, it's like, wow, like, I can't even have a drink either. Like, what the fuck? Like, maybe I should just keep drinking because like that wasn't as bad as this. And it's like, don't quit right before the miracle happens, because like you're almost there. And like, if you can get through this really painful part, then you will go from negative to positive, like Biggie said, right? But it's not going to be an easy path, you got to push through this, and you have to have that tenacity, and you have to build in that resilience. And so, in a similar way, it's like, man, I don't know if this career is going to happen. And this is the only thing I've ever been really passionate about in my life. So if I can't do this, I have no idea what I'm going to do. How to know not to quit, or when did I know that I shouldn't give up? I mean, two things come to mind. One thing is like, I'm a musician no matter what, in a way I was born a musician. Like I've always had this sort of rhythm inside of me that has to come out. So at the end of the day, no matter what, I would have found a way to express it, even if it couldn't be my job. Like if the market didn't validate my offering, it's like, well, damn, that sucks. So be it. I'm still going to play drums when I get home from work. I'm still going to freestyle when I get home from work, or wake up early and do it. I would have had to find time because without that, I don't know. It's like, that is my identity. So there's that. And then the other thing is like, I guess, because the question is, when did you know that it wasn't time to quit on your vision? When did I stop entertaining that voice, right? Of like, maybe it's not going to work out. Maybe you should quit. I mean, I have to say, I think it was Bounce House, man. Shout out to Jacob Mann. Like, I really do think that was the moment when I was like, okay, man, there's something here. 100,000 views overnight. And I was like, what? Like, and I started thinking about like, man, imagine if I did a freestyle on stage in front of 100,000 people. Crazy. And it's not the same thing, It's easy enough to watch a video on your phone that's algorithmically recommended to you. It requires almost no effort. It's a whole different thing to buy a ticket and go see the guy on stage. But still, just as a thought experiment, I was just like, 100,000 people watched this performance, That's insane. So I think there's something here. So let me dive in. But in no way could I say that was the end of the struggle, or that was like the end of it being hard, because it remains hard. Now it remains challenging, it remains difficult. And just the nature of what is difficult shifts and changes along the way, right? I didn't feel ready to freestyle for the world with Bounce House, but yet it happened. I didn't feel ready to do the drum freestyle thing with Norah Jones. That was just a few months ago, but yet it happened, you know? And so, you know, it remains challenging. There are still times when I question things. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know if I'm cut out for this. There's times where it doesn't feel like things are working out, and you have to push through. I'm lucky at this point, though. Like I have this team that's supporting me. I have, you know, my wife and my family and people who really believe in me and help me cultivate a deeper belief in myself. So it's important to surround yourself with positive people and people who believe in you, especially if you're trying to do something kind of off the beaten path. Because again, to live an exceptional life, you have to be an exception to the rule. And that means, you know, people who aren't thinking like that are going to hear your plans for yourself and be like, that's crazy. That'll never work out. And that's hard to overcome that when you're hearing that from all angles. And it's unbelievably hard if you're hearing that from your family, which is often the case. You know, if your parents are telling you that's crazy, let go of that pipe dream, it's never going to work out for you. Oh my God. What an insane obstacle to overcome. But don't quit right before the miracle happens, right? Stay at it, man. Stay focused. You know, and if it's really not meant to be, I think you'll know, you know, if you really, you know, like I probably could never play in the NBA, right? Even if I was really passionate about it. Starting, I don't know, if I was passionate about it, starting at like age 2, maybe, if it's all I did, maybe, but even still then, maybe not, right? It might just not be in the cards for me. But I think you'll know when you've given it your all. And then, you know, you can maybe consider moving on at that point, but.
And that feels good too.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like, for the most part, like, okay. Like, you figured that out.
Exactly.
Almost always feels better than not ever trying to go for it, so.
Yeah. 100%. Great question. Shout out to Ocean Grown 804. Shout out to everybody that submitted their questions. If we didn't get to you this time, we might get to you on a future episode, but we appreciate everybody for submitting. And we also take submissions in the form of freestyle rhymes. You know what's up, man. We're going to react to a freestyle from a community member. If you freestyle yourself and you want me to react to and maybe give a little feedback to your freestyle, harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. Same location, man. Whether it's a question or a freestyle, that's where you go. We have a new batch of beats up there, new options. If you're used to the old batch that we were rocking with for months and months and months, we got new ones up there. So MCs, rappers, singers, instrumentalists, I don't know, man. If you do something awesome over the beat, send us a video, man. I would love to check it out. And it's always cool seeing this growing community of freestylers around the world. And this week's submission from Mark R comes with a message. So I'm going to read that message first, and then we'll check out the freestyle. Mark says, "Greetings, Harry. Mark here. You've been a huge inspiration to me as a freestyle artist. I grew up on Freestyle Fellowship, Idea, Dose One, Thesaurus, and Ilmac at Scribble Jam. So to see someone continuing that art form in its purity is super inspiring to see. Last year, I started doing a weekly live stream every Friday titled Freestyle Friday with Mr. Video, where I freestyle over instrumentals for around 2 hours. It's been an awesome journey so far, and I just wanted to reach out because I love what you're doing and wanted you to know I appreciate you. Much love, Mr. Video, aka Monk Cypher Realm." That is awesome. Thank you, Mr. Video. Glad that I can inspire you, man, and it sounds like you're killing it on your journey. So keep up the good work, and thank you for the kind words. I'm excited to check out your freestyle. Let's get it.
Down on the mic when I do it, like MCs come around, they be flashing like a fluid light in your cars. I come around when I do it, got bars from Mars and take them way out there to the quasars and stay large on the microphone. I say, hey Mark, that's my name. I like to embark upon this beautiful journey never been upon the chessboard. When I get down, don't give me a lecture if you ain't really living what you talking about. I kick freestyles doing it, I have to knock them out, but I'd rather not get down, travel up to the castle top and then jump off. Then I'm flying, kick a freestyle, no lying. Off the top of my brain, no lions in this jungle anymore. I've been the king for a long time, but I'm looking up to the king of kings when I kick a freestyle. No bling bling over here, no swing when I get down with the raw. Hit him up when I do it, yeah, hit him with the rawness. Get down like flawless victory on the Mortal Kombat. Have you ever saw that? Yeah, me too. Back in the days, I get down like 1993, maybe 2. Crazy flu that I caught, hip hop off the top.
Ooh, hey, all right. Shout out to my man, Mark Bars going in, dog. Hell yeah, that was dope, man. Wow, I love the pocket, first and foremost. Love the rhythmic approach. Very intense rhythmic approach, which is what I love, you know? And what I mean is, it wasn't like soft around the edges or mushy at all. Sometimes when somebody's rhyming, especially when they're trying to do like a double time, faster kind of flow over a trap beat like this, or any kind of beat where like the beat is in halftime and the raps are in double time, right? Sometimes it can feel ambiguous. Where it's like, oh, okay, did you mean this rhythm or that rhythm? So there's this sort of effect of like rhythmic ambiguity where it's like, I'm not entirely sure that you even knew exactly what rhythm you were going for, you know? It feels like you're kind of just along for the ride. But with this, I really didn't feel that way. I felt like there was this intensity and sharpness to the rhythm of like that's what I love, is where it's like, oh, this is a drum solo right now. Like this is precise and it's intentional. And I felt that throughout, which I love. And then the other thing that really stood out to me was there were so many cool little word flips, you know, homonym flips, like where the same word, the same sound means multiple things, right? Like there was a moment with pawn, and then you said upon the chessboard. That's so sick. I can't believe I never heard that before. That's one of those ones where you're like, damn, that's such a good idea. And when you hear it, it seems so obvious. Not in a bad way though. Like not in like a condescending, like, well, that's so obvious. More so in a way where it's like the best ideas sound so obvious when you hear them because they're so resonant. You know, that's what happened right there, where it's like, yeah, the pawn is upon the chessboard. You know, like that was fire. That was super dope. And then there were others as well throughout. Like no lion. He was like, I'm kicking a freestyle. No lion. No lions in the jungle. And then there was another dope rhyme. There was some cool multi-syllabic shit with castle top. Like, was it blasting off to the castle top or something like that? Like very kind of like unique multi-syllabic rhymes that I hadn't heard before, which is always the best. Because there are some multi-syllabic rhymes that are kind of like burnt out at this point, you know, like the classic example is lyrical miracle, you know, that's why that became like literally the name of a category of hip hop, lyrical miracle rap. Like, oh, we don't want to hear that lyrical miracle anymore. It's just not interesting. It is multi-syllabic. It's 3 syllables, lyrical, miracle, but it's like, we've heard it a million times, but blasting off to the castle top, I never heard that before. I don't know if it was blasting off, but it was something really dope that led into castle top, and I loved it, and it might've been blasting off, but either way, really dope, man. Also, cool environment, man, to be outside. Like you're in the woods somewhere. This is giving me mad Pacific Northwest vibes, but I have no idea if that's where you're at. But love seeing all these fir trees, man. And actually the light coming through the fir trees right now just looks beautiful, man. Even on this still frame that I'm looking at, it's gorgeous. So that's cool. Looks like it was a beautiful day. And good for you, man, getting out and streaming 2 hours at a time. I can relate. That was what I did for Wordplay Wednesday as well, minimum 2 hours. So you're killing it, and you must have strong vocals because I know how it feels to go for a long time like that. So dope. Shout out to it's Mr. Video, right? Let me make sure I get it right. Mr. Video, aka Monk Cypher Realm. Go support this cat on his grind, freestyling, taking inspiration from many of the people that inspired me as well. Freestyle Fellowship, Idea, Thesaurus, and Ilmac, some of my favorites. So good shit, man.
Let's go, Mark Bars.
Mark Bars. Well, I'm feeling inspired, man. I'm going to grab some inspo for what I just heard and close this thing out, you know, the way that we always do, man. I think it's about that time.
Let's get it, dog.
Hell yeah. Let's get it. Let me drop a beat. Let me sip a water. Speaking of vocals, got to prepare myself. All right, here we go, y'all. Flow State Pod. You know what it is. Thanks for tapping in. We here. Yeah. Yeah. I let it pour off the dome. Hopped on the podcast with Norah Jones. Knew I was there living my purpose, playing drums while I'm rapping. Now I'm feeling real nervous, collaborating right across from a legend. Real music, yo, that's what she be repping. So I know I gotta come and rise to the occasion. In my head, hoping it can be something amazing. But honestly, while it was happening, wasn't feeling no sensations. Cause I was in the flow station, plugged in, y'all. I was tapped into the moment. I built the technique, so now I gotta own it. I honed it back in the laboratory, and now I get to utilize it in this brand new category. I was having fun fun, having a blast until I left. And suddenly I woke up, can't catch my breath. What did I do? What have I done? Even though in the moment with her, I felt so warm, it was fun. She was so kind and the whole team was so great. And I felt in the moment like I was in flow state. But now, feeling terrified, damn near petrified. Hoping that my music might leave you mesmerized. But I'm scared that the tempo was probably shifting. Moving up, moving down, failing on this mission. Felt like I had overcommitted. Up in that moment saying that I would try it, but I really did it. But I don't know if I bullshitted when I said I was ready. I wonder if it's gonna work, I wonder if it will hit heavy. I wonder if I should cut my career off with a machete like I'm done. No more having fun, no more shining in alignment, no more sun, no more UV. This could be the end of my career, truly. Y'all know the voices, demons, all up in our heads that be yelling, screaming. Sometimes it's multiple demons, quadruple teaming. Feeling like I can't get away from that. I'm trying to find the reason in the rhyme. Yeah, it's all inside my mind. I recognize what happens when evil spirits combine inside of my head. The problem is with me, not with Norah Jones or her team. You see, nobody pressured me, I pressured myself. Maybe it's because I knew that was the card that had to be dealt. Honestly, maybe that's what was promised to me. Maybe somewhere in my own brain subconsciously, I knew this was the next step that I had to take in order to be real, progress and not be fake. In order to not sit back on what I've done, but to continue moving forward on this run. The subconscious energy put me in that spot so that I could keep the ball up, not let it drop. Afterwards, yo, I had to pay the price. But listen, my fellow artists, this is my advice. If you feel like an imposter, feel like you don't belong, feel like you can't do right and every decision's wrong, it might not be true, it might not be reality. So when you hear these thoughts, you have to challenge these. Push back a little bit, it can take you far. We keep expanding and shining like stars. Nice with the bars, going beyond. I'm working magic every time I turn this mic to a wand. I said, yo, bring the next beat in. Flow stay pod, speaking on places we've been. Yeah, turn it up loud, keep the speakers blaring. Improvising my art just like I'm Keith Haring. What? Yeah, put the writing all up on the wall. When it become a lyrics, I know that we ready to evolve. I said we ready, I said we ready. I said we got wild styles like Fab Five Freddy. We about to paint the train with the Campbell soup can. Reinventing myself, feel like a new man. Peace to all the street artists. Y'all know we can understand, no doubt. Do 100 paintings and hand them out. Don't need no price tag, y'all know that this art is free. Freestyle artistry, a part of me. It ain't hard to see, get it out to the people. Ain't no price tag that could ever equal what can happen when you lift somebody's spirit. We lift them up with paintings and we lift them up with lyrics and we lift them up with melodies. We lift them up with photos and we lift them up with videos that's seen around the global. H-Mack be going postal, delivering like I'm UPS. When they becoming delivers right off of the menu, they know that I'm truly fresh. From here to Budapest, getting props worldwide. I started waving this music, so ride the curl tide. We keep it in motion, no one's killing my dream. When did I start building a team? Well, first I had to make sure that I was doing right. First I had to go outside and live an exceptional life. First I had to do something. What's the point of websites if you ain't making efforts in the world? Dead right, ain't no purpose at all. Have to let it organically evolve. The biggest problem first has to be solved. And the biggest problem, or better yet, the biggest obstacle is learning how to do something people think is impossible. Once you do that, well, you don't have to try to blow. All you have to do in that moment be undeniable. It'll happen on its own, bit by bit. First I had to go out and learn how to spit, and that took multiple decades, but now we are here. Now it opens up, I see the path more clear. Haven't solved it, haven't checked it off my list, you never will. Cause for the rest of my life I'll develop my skill. This is how we build, brick by brick, incrementally. Essentially I must expand mentally, so it's not something that you flip like a switch. It's not binary, cause I look in the mirror today like I'ma try Harry. I'ma poke holes in this style, not in a way that's mean, in a way that can help me get more clean with lyrical scheme. Focus on my weakness when I'm practicing. Can't be freestyling with no average men. Have to bring the savages in. I'm back once again to blend my lyrics with the instrumental. Go against the trend, going places that are new. I'm kicking something true. I'm spreading like a sickness, contagious like the flu. And I'll be hitting you wherever y'all are listening from. Flow state, y'all, we getting it done. You know the deal, real right now. Keep it real right now. When I'm rhyming, my truth will be revealed right now. And when I spit like this, it's straight from the soul. I must embrace the mystery and surrender control. Yeah, I need both all up at the same time. If I don't surrender, then I'll probably spit a lame rhyme. Way too preoccupied by the technique. I gotta let my spirit fly free over the beat. So practice your scales and practice your chords. Then forget all that bullshit and lift off the floor. We going straight to the ceiling. When I'm rhyming, I go 8. Episode 37, y'all, this is Flow State. What?
Yeah. Damn, bro.
That's how we do. Y'all know what it is, man. Thanks so much for rocking with us. Another episode. We out.